Hello and welcome to Dirhams and Dollars, the Gulf News business podcast, where we talk about news affecting the business community in the region and in the world. On Wednesdays, we have in-depth discussions on a topic of the week. You can find us on iTunes and all the other podcasting apps, and we can be found on gulfnews.com as always. I'm Ed Clowes.
And I'm Scott Shuey.
And I'm Sarah Adia. Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
And a Happy Festivus to the rest of us.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's see. It's the end of the year. We just got done listening to our predictions from last year, and they were all over the place.
Yes.
But we thought we'd go back and talk a little bit about the stories we've seen this year. And actually, we have some awards we're going to give out starting today.
Not physical awards.
Not physical awards. These are just the silliest, the worst, the best, all that type of stuff. So we thought we'd go back. And, we're each going to nominate a story, and we'll see how it works out. And we're doing this basically on the fly. No one's seen each other's nominations yet, so we don't know how this is going to go.
Okay.
So we're going to start off with the silliest news story of 2018.
Okay. Before we go any further, can I just say that next year we should have physical awards made.
And give them out to whom?
To ourselves. Just so something can go in my trophy cabinet.
I want awards. If you want to buy me something, I'll happily accept it.
Okay.
I'll give you until tomorrow. Or next week, or whenever you want. I'll give you 2 weeks to buy me.
We'll talk
something.
off air about what might be present.
I just got overexcited about the possibility of getting something nice.
Yeah, me too. All right, sorry, Scott. You were saying silliest.
On to the silliest story.
Category 1.
Yes.
Dum dum dum.
And okay, let's start. Not with me. Ed, you go first. What's your silliest story of 2019?
It's always me. It's always me. All right, so I have 2 nominations in this category, and I know we're meant to have 1 nomination. I'm not trying to throw the rule book out at this early stage. I don't know if we should discount April Fool's stories because they're, by their nature, quite silly. If we're including April Fool's stories, then I have the blockchain car, the blockchain-powered car, which a couple of well-known, well-respected publications in the UAE fell for and published on April 2nd. That was from Yalla Compare, the insurance comparison guys. So shout out to them for fooling quite a few people. But yeah, that was basically a car powered on blockchain. If we're not including April 1st, what's the verdict?
I'm going to say it got to be a real story.
Got to be a real news story. Okay, then mine is the Carrefour floating supermarket, which just really summarized like the ridiculous sort of bizarro news announcements that we sometimes get here of just.
Do you want to give us a 10-second pitch of what the story was for those who
didn't read it?
I mean,
it basically does what it says on the tin. It's a floating supermarket for jet skiers, for yacht owners. So
this is peak Dubai.
There's 3 of them. It is very much peak Dubai. There's 3 of them floating off the coasts of Dubai's most popular beaches. You pull up on your jet ski, you order a pint of milk and some vegetables and a bit of sun cream, and then you ride off.
Because that's what people want when they're on a jet ski. Just give me a pint of milk, please.
Apparently, it's really filling that need that no one knew existed. Yeah. So that's my silly story for 2018.
Sarah?
I feel like I have a winner. I think my silliest story of 2018 was the 420 tweet by Elon Musk, the funding secure tweet. That was just a beauty of its own because it was a lot of my favorite things at once. It was peak Twitter just going crazy, peak like celebrity craziness, peak finance craziness when Elon Musk said he wanted to take. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. The SEC didn't think it was so silly. They sued him for it.
Well, that's what makes it like a real proper story. It wasn't just this Twitter thing. It blew up, and the SEC, the Securities
Security Exchange Commission. Yes, they ended up suing Elon Musk. He lost his chairmanship over that tweet.
Yep,
yeah, and he had to pay $20 million
fine, and then he later tweeted saying worth it. And I think that was a beautifully silly story. Also, I have to mention that I was quite excited about it because it had like finance people coming in and saying, "Oh, the 420 number makes sense. It's not just like a marijuana reference because it's like a 10 or 20% premium or whatever." And so there was like proper finance.
Name the 3 models of Tesla. There's the S, there's the E, there's the X. Okay, Elon Musk has a track record of making some type of under the what do you call it, off the wall type of references in his stuff.
Subliminal.
So the 420
Easter
obviously
eggs.
is nothing but weed.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my nomination for silliest story of 2018.
All right, you guys are both going to shout me down on my silliest one, Bitcoin. Bitcoin Okay, looking back, hindsight is 2020. What brainiac came up with the idea of let's spend $20,000 on a little piece of encrypted code with nothing inside of it whatsoever, and let's see if we can get more people to do it, and let's spend trillions of dollars on this stuff and go out and start up a whole, what was it, a buying frenzy of GPUs so we can process this stuff even more. Looking back, it's like, what the hell were people thinking?
Can I just say this was the silliest story of maybe 2017, not 18?
No,
well, hold on. This is the next 30 minutes of my life. I knew it was going to go down this road. First of all, Bitcoin is not a silly story.
No,
it's
but, like,
a
if it
major
were.
news story. And I think the crash probably does constitute it more as a silly story because it shows how ridiculous the rise was in 2017. I think people were shown to be silly in 2018. But I'm going to contest and object for the record that Bitcoin is a silly story. And I know that this is just the way it's going.
Save your
now.
voting for the end of the nominations.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. I mean, are we just each going to vote on our own stories?
No, actually, no, let's do it. Let's what do you say? I actually go with Musk. I think Musk is a good one.
Yeah, I'll go with Musk.
All right, Elon Musk,
I'll go with Musk.
Wins our silliest story of the year.
Although I'm trying to keep it local, right, for all of our UAE listeners.
We never agreed this was local.
We're a local podcast. Shout out all my Dubaians. If you feel
You're just trying
aggrieved
to
by
garner
Sarah's
votes.
international choices, then you can email us at sarahdear@gulfnews/dirhams. All right, let's go.
We'll dox Ed next. Don't worry about it.
Not my email address, but carry on.
All right,
not.
let's go
Respect
into
privacy.
category number 2.
All right.
Let's go with what was the most surprising story of 2018. All right, Sarah, you start off this time.
I have 2. I have Qatar leaving OPEC. I remember when that came out, and I remember thinking, oh, I did not see that coming. And maybe that's a fault on my part because I don't cover energy and I don't read a lot about energy as much as I read about other things. And I also don't read a ton about politics. So maybe other people saw it coming. For me, it was a huge surprise. The second story I would nominate, and you can take your pick, is Brett Kavanaugh becoming the Supreme Court justice. Like, that was overwhelming for me. I just couldn't believe they did that. I couldn't believe.
Surely that goes into the non-business category.
Yeah, I would say that
Does
probably
it have to be
non.
business?
Yeah, it's a business podcast, business awards.
Yeah, so we're scrubbing that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I got emotional for a second. Thanks, guys.
It's all right. You can bring it up again in a few moments. We have a
up.
non-business category coming up. Ed?
You go for it, Scott. You tell us.
All right. My second surprising story is Abraj. I did not see that one coming. I mean, we've been looking at Abraj for years. It was, kept being, promoted as one of the biggest local story.
Yeah,
All right.
Points for that.
One of the biggest private investment companies around for years. Everyone was invested in it. Bill Gates was invested in it. The Bill Gates Fund was in there. Everything was going fine. And all of a sudden, it started to unravel. And it started off with just small commingling of funds and maybe some errant transactions here. And it snowballed into the death of this major company. And I'll be honest, I mean, bookkeeping in parts of this area of the world have been a little shoddy over the years, but I did not see it unraveling to that extent from such a big player.
Yeah, a big company of that size and such a spectacular fall from grace. My most surprising story of 2018 was the relative ease with which the UAE introduced VAT, the relatively smooth rollout. I anticipated, as I think a lot of people did, complete carnage.
Panic in the streets.
Sort of tills not working and it just being complete
starvation.
Yeah, exactly.
Lord of the Flies.
Wolves roaming the palm. And actually, credit to the FTA, credit where credit's due. The rollout was pretty smooth. Most small businesses, the fruit and veg guys in the markets were kind of well consulted and well prepared. And actually, there have been some hiccups and obviously some road bumps along the way. But when you take a country from a completely no tax environment to introducing a tax. I mean, it's rare to see a company in this day and age. Country. I keep saying company. It's rare to see a country in this day and age actually introduce a tax regime. And I think the UAE made a pretty good go of it. And when you look at the other GCC countries, still not anywhere close to doing it. I think that to me was quite a surprise, especially having covered it so comprehensively in 2017 and sort of heard the fears. I think that was quite a surprise for me.
Okay.
All right.
Shall we vote?
Call it to a vote. What you got?
I got Abraj. I vote Abraj.
I vote Abraj too. It's
All
a
right,
good story.
Abraj it is then.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
was-
that
So
was a
Abraj
surprise.
is our officially most surprising story of 2018.
Yeah.
All right. The least surprising story of 2018. The story everyone should have seen coming. And just if you're curious, no, I didn't put Bitcoin in this category too.
Go on, Scott. You tell us. What did you put in this category?
Okay. I put down Facebook and all the data leaks and the fact that this company has for years been taking people's data, and on the side, guess what? They were selling it and you to everybody out there and targeting ads and getting involved in elections. And at the end of the day, they turned out to be just some company run by some smug Harvard-educated millennial who was
I
looking
knew
to
the
make
M
some
word
money.
was coming. I knew you wanted to say the word millennial. I knew it.
It wouldn't be a
Classic.
podcast without me dishing on millennials in some way. Anyway, back to Facebook. That is one I think everyone should have seen coming.
I never said anything about Elon Musk being a Gen Xer. Why
So
do you
what?
have? Why do you
I
have
would.
to go
I
low?
generally-
Or
Okay,
Arif Nakvi, you know.
I would say, you want me to say something about Musk being a Gen Xer? Trust me, I can dish on
I wouldn't go
Musk.
that low.
What's that?
Unlike someone, I wouldn't go
Oh,
that low.
okay. Sorry, that's get more fun out of life, Sarah. You had to dig down deep. All right. Anyway, Facebook. What's your nomination? That's mine.
Sarah, ladies first.
I have 3 nominations.
For
is that
God.
What
right?
is it with? I get one
honestly.
nomination apiece. All right.
Okay,
let's
fine,
the
fine,
last
fine.
of the multi-nomination categories.
Okay, I will give mine. I will narrow them down to 1. Brexit. I think no one should be surprised. No one should have been surprised that it turned out to be the utter mess and confusion that it still is. The UK is expected to leave the European Union in 3 months, and we still know now as much as we did this time last year, which is just about nothing. Yeah, that was.
Are we accepting that as a business story?
Yes.
Brexit, yeah, because
It's political, but
it is, but it certainly has a business.
got a business
I mean,
component,
it's quite a hefty
Why are you
business
trying
component.
to take me down every time I pitch a story?
Because I'm
Millennial
trying to win.
infighting.
Because I need to win. No.
Oh yes, you haven't won anyone so far.
No, I haven't. No. Well, because I think Dirhams and Dollars Awards is going to become obviously an institution in the
Of
coming
course.
years, and we need to sort of hammer out the specifics of it, including local versus international. And my choice for least surprising is, unsurprisingly, another local story, since champion of the people here, Ed Clowes. It is the Kareem hack of 14 million users. To me, this was actually,
This was this year.
if we had the biggest story of the year locally, I think it probably would have been my choice for that as well. Simply because it was the first time a major, well-known, in the spotlight company that's very popular with the day-to-day people disclosed a hack. Basically, its entire user base was compromised in that hack. They came forward in a sort of of their own volition, but it was unsurprising because Scott and we cover a lot of cyber security stuff, and it's a common theme that companies are constantly here in the UAE, especially under attack, and it's just a matter of time before a big company is hit and has to disclose. So to me, it wasn't particularly surprising, and I think 2019, 2020, you're going to see more of that kind of thing happening. So for me, it was the hack of Kareem's user base.
All right, so we got our 3 contestants there. All right, let's hear the votes.
So remind me of
Brexit, Facebook, and the one you took
I
20
don't-
minutes explaining.
I don't think Facebook is. I think Facebook was a surprise. I think at that scale, I think everyone would have expected it to grow when it grew to that size to have some controversies, but I'm not sure that the complete disaster of a year it's been. I don't think that would have been.
I mean,
seen
actually,
coming.
when I said I have 3 nominations, Facebook was one of them.
Yeah.
For least surprising.
Really
Right.
Yeah.
interesting.
So everyone but you, Ed.
I'm going to go with Kareem. I'm voting for myself
Sarah?
this time.
I'm voting for Brexit then. If you're voting for yourself.
No, I'm voting for Brexit on this one. We're going to avoid the 3-way. I think
Okay.
Brexit, to be at this point, we knew this was a crap show coming down the pike, so no surprise there.
Yeah,
How do you feel about that, champion of the people? I'm winning so far.
because it's easy when you choose the big internationals. But anyway,
That we never said it was just local stories, genius.
we're a local podcast, so we should have had
Right.
we
so
should have
we
had an
never talk
international
about like
category.
U.S.-China trade, right?
We should have
never
had an international category.
All right, and on to the next category moving forward here. All right, we're going to go with the story in 2018, the Under the Radar Award. I don't know. We said this earlier, but I'm still not quite sure what it means. This is the most underreported, or just the story that sort of we missed, or
I think it flew under the radar.
It's either it flew under the radar and was underreported, but I think under the radar also has the connotation of like the potential to grow into something much bigger. It's almost like a one to watch.
All right, so you go ahead with that one. Ed, then what do you got?
So I've got two. I've got the loosening of visa regulations in the UAE, so 10-year residencies and so on. It's still yet to be sort of formally implemented.
Did you really go local in every category?
Yeah. I mean, that's what the champion of the people does, internationally known, locally recognized. So,
by the way, I don't like this passive-aggressive bashing us both behavior.
It's all good. It's all good. I think the visa regulations are certainly one to watch going ahead, but I think they're one that sort of this year flew under the radar because they weren't sort of formalized into law and were simply announced by the cabinet. So I think that was a sort of underreported story that could have major knock-on.
One flew east, one flew west, one flew under the cuckoo's radar.
Exactly, indeed.
All right, Sarah, you go first or next.
Under the radar, I would definitely, without a doubt, easily say that mine is the Dubai financial market. The index, the Dubai financial market index is year-to-date down 24%, which is properly bear market. And when I hear people talk about bear markets, they talk about emerging markets. Obviously, Dubai is an emerging market, but they don't talk about Dubai. They don't talk about the fact that this is an index that has fallen so much and continued to fall from the beginning of the year because of several reasons.
You know what? I'm not even I'll call this to a vote right now, because DFM is probably the most surprising story for the year.
Most surprising?
Or sorry, most under the radar. It was.
But it's been covered pretty comprehensively.
No, it was.
It's in Bloomberg like every couple of weeks.
It was a creeping story all year long, and it was never like, oh my God, the market crashed yesterday. It never really did that. It was like a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and it continued all year long.
And also, I mean, I'm not trying to pitch this further, but I think it's fair to say that, like, as someone who follows finance, I didn't see people from other countries talk about this and give it the buzz that Turkey, for example, got, or Argentina. And I realize these are different scales, but like China, for example, obviously one of the largest economies in the world, the second largest, not the case with the UAE. But when these markets would fall into bear territory, everyone around the world, everyone on finance Twitter would flip about it. And no one ever mentioned Dubai. And it's kind of like, what?
Yeah, the first few stories I've seen, the big focus stories from the big international wires, just in the last few weeks. So, yeah. All right. So, officially then, we're kind of call that one for the under the radar story of the year is the DFM, right?
3 out of 4. Yeah. Or 3 out of 5. What was yours?
Mine was the most surprising.
No, what was your DFM. Under the radar?
My DFM. I mean, I was looking at VAT too, but quite frankly, DFM is the one that really.
This is the one you had in mind when you came in?
No, I had VAT in mind when I came in, because VAT sort of started off like Ed said. It was like, all right, hey, pitchforks and torches, and oh my God, we're going to be fighting in the street for tomorrow's lunch. And
it was the most over-reported, or it was the most reported story in 2017. It was the most reported story in 2017, and it was probably completely, it was kind of underreported in 2018.
And I have to say, it gets points also for the fact that there was a bit of like confusion in the first couple of days, or the first few days of January, when everyone was getting receipts of like X.13 or X.26, like denominations that don't exist in the currency, but then the central bank said you have to round it up and like you pay what's closest.
Yeah, there was all kinds of fun stuff. I remember paying for stuff online for shipping, and the guy would still show up and say, you still owe 2 dirhams. Why? Well, because we didn't put the VAT in the online computation for your delivery fees. I mean, that type of stuff was going on for like a few weeks.
Right.
But after that, went away.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm the winner so far. That's what counts.
Yes, that's the most important things in all this rehashing of this year's story, that you win.
Spot the only child.
All right, next category before Ed gets slapped. The non-business story of the year.
Take it away, Scott.
All right, I'm going to go with the U.S. elections. I mean, it seemed to be the most...
The midterms?
the midterm elections.
Okay.
I don't want to say all-consuming, but it seemed like all I heard about for 6 months of the elections was the ongoing fight with Donald Trump and the Republicans and the blue wave and the red wave. And, it sort of is more than just that because it ties in everything. It brings in the China-U.S. trade war. It brings in Russian involvement in the U.S. elections in 2016. I mean, it pretty much encompasses everything. The U.S. election was everything that's gone wrong over the last 2 years, and who's to blame for it. So by simply looking at the scale, I'm going to call the elections.
I wouldn't class Brexit as a business story. To me, it's more of a political story. So Brexit would be my choice. But if we're going to call Brexit a business story, then my biggest non-business story of the year would be the gathering pace of the Mueller investigations, simply just because the implications of those indictments and investigations surrounding Trump, and more broadly, not just the Mueller indictments, but the other ongoing investigations. There's currently 17 concurrent investigations into Trump and his businesses and the election he ran in 2016. So that, to me, simply, the size of America's economy, the consequences those investigations could have, and just the sort of undeniability at this point of Trump's sort of abhorrent criminality and his campaign's criminality.
So you agree with me?
About what?
It's the U.S. election.
Not quite. He says Mueller.
No.
You said
I'm saying
elections.
he's... Yeah,
I'm talking investigations. I think the midterms is a good choice. I think it's a referendum on Trump and it shows the Democrats can do well in 2020, which will have very far-ranging consequences. So, but I'm not saying that's how I'm going to vote. Let's hear Sarah's.
I have two. Is that okay?
All right, go on.
One is I just wrote Trump. Everything Trump related.
Not
Like-
acceptable.
Trump.
You got to be specific. Trump is not a story. There's
Okay, I think how many people have been fired from the White House and from his administration over this year it would take my non-business story pick of the year. And also, I'm going to go back again and say Brett Kavanaugh winning a seat as the Supreme Court Justice.
Okay, can I make a suggestion here before we all basically vote on our own version of which Trump story is the non-business story of the year? Because everything we just mentioned boils down to it's Trump. Yeah. So could we just all agree? We'll say that the non-business story of the year is the chaotic presidency of Donald Trump in 2018. Because that hits Mueller, that hits Kavanaugh, that hits the election, whole thing. What do we say?
Yeah, I
or are we going to dig our heels in each call?
No. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. I do feel like you're trying to sort of slide into that one a little bit since the
guy who hasn't won a category all night.
Listen, I'm not here to win. I'm just here to win the hearts and minds of the people.
Yeah, how you doing that with the 0 wins?
He's doing that with the local stories.
I think the midterms are not a Trump story. Really, they're a Democrats and Republican story, but I agree with.
Fine, let's take it for a vote. Who votes with Ed?
I vote, obviously, for myself.
All right, who votes with Sarah?
I do.
Yeah, who votes with me? We got a tie. Now what do we do? Tiebreaker.
Logan?
I go with Ed.
Yeah, thank
He
you.
says I go with Ed.
So our off-camera producer today cast the deciding vote. Logan Fish going
Hold
for...
on, is this a pity vote? Logan?
I'm all about the champion of the people.
Yes, mate. Boom.
Okay,
All
essentially it's a half pity vote.
All right.
Let's
So
throw
Ed
you a
gets
bone.
his first one
Whatever
on a
helps you
non-local
sleep at
story.
night.
So much for the champion of the people.
Yeah.
So we got the Mueller investigation into Donald Trump is our non-business story of the year.
But
No.
Well,
That is
yeah.
so wrong. But
no, it's way more consequential than
we've had the vote.
It's more consequential than the
vote.
White House comings and goings, for sure. Because it's about the presidency potentially coming.
You know, we're going to play some music in the background when they play people off on the Oscars. We're going to introduce that one with you. All right. The next category is the best tech gadget of 2018.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go last because I think you guys pretty much guess which company made my tech gadget of the year. Ed, you're first up this time. You haven't gone first yet.
I went first on the first
Oh,
category.
shut up and give me the category.
Mine's the 2018-2019 MacBook Air. It was called, Tim Cook called it the greenest MacBook ever. It's made from 35% post-consumer plastic.
What, are you getting a kickback for this?
Recycled
ad here?
recycled aluminium and recycled tin motherboard. I think it's the biggest consumer tech company in the world making a a laptop that's totally of the minute. Green, environmentally friendly, sustainable. I think it's my top tech pick of the year.
Me, so you two know, like, tech gadgets are not my thing. So just to annoy you, Scott, I said Nokia's 8.1 phone.
Okay. Throw away your vote. Go ahead.
Sorry.
All right. My choice here is the Apple Watch Series 4 of the year, because this is not just a watch, it's a medical device. I mean, it has all different things you can built into it. I think to a large extent, phones and smartphones across the board are sort of they've peaked. They're no longer going to be the device where you go for innovation and to find new things in technology. Wearables, we've been talking about that for years, they're finally starting to come into their own. Apple Watch now, you're walking down the street, you trip, you knock your head, you knock yourself unconscious. It can actually dial emergency services for you. You can actually monitor your heart rate or your EKG. There's all different new things coming on with the watch which actually have real-world benefits, whether or not just, my post get enough likes. I mean, this is real-world consequences stuff. So I'm going to go with the watch on that one. I mean, I think it's finally time we've got some innovation that moves beyond the phone, moves it into a new category, and actually brings some great benefits to the individual.
Okay, I know who my vote is going to.
All right, well, you're going to decide, because neither one of us are voting for Nokia. That's just down.
Ouch!
So you get to call. Is it me or Ed?
Ed.
Thank you.
Right.
Although, twisting the tail,
What?
I'm going to vote for Scott. No, I'm just joking. Thank you, Sarah. No,
What do you have against me today?
No, nothing. I'm grateful for you handing me the second story of the year. I appreciate that. Thank you. But I do think that the watch is a good. I genuinely think the watch is a good choice. I agree with Scott's assessment. It's a step forward.
So this was the AirBook or the MacBook Pro?
The MacBook Air.
The MacBook Air is our gadget of the year.
The greenest ever Mac.
Really?
Logan off camera.
Bad computer.
Oh no! What would you have? Is anything that comes?
If you're gonna go MacBooks, you gotta go with the new one with the Vega graphics chip in it.
Ooh.
I agree. MacBook Pro with the i9 chip and the Vega dedicated graphic. Yeah, I'm down with that one.
All right, I'm down with that too. All right, I give up my vote. 1 to Logan.
I literally have no clue what gadget you're talking about.
We're talking about the new high-end Apple's MacBook Pro.
But wait, was that announced
They're all
this
the
year?
same to
Yeah.
me.
Just in the same round as the.
So we're canceling it. It's now the MacBook, the i9 version of the MacBook Pro. All right, I'm down with that one. That's a good call.
All right,
so that one goes to Logan.
Let's do
so
it.
you're still
Thanks for not asking for my vote, by the way.
we 2 to whatever you got. You yeah.
Okay.
Nokia 8.1 much?
Yeah. I'm sorry. You lost cred on that one. All right. So this is our
Sarah.
last story of the year. And I think it's pretty clear cut, but we'll wait to see what the other two have to say here. What is the biggest story of 2018?
2019.
No, let's do 2018 real quick. I'm
Oh, we
throwing
did
in a new category at the last minute.
Yeah,
so
well,
it
we should have.
surprises
I mean, we
everybody.
really
And-
should have had a biggest story of 2018 since we didn't actually have like the top story of the year. So I think we should have that as a category. Like,
Okay, you go first before I think, so I can think.
Okay. Mine is going to be U.S.-China trade war.
sorry, but this is going to be top business story of 2018.
2018.
Top business story.
Top business story of
Yeah.
2018.
U.S.-China trade war is
U.S.-China
was
trade war.
massive.
It's massive. It's hitting everybody. It's hitting everything.
Yeah.
And it's not just U.S.-China. It's the oil market. It's OPEC.
Yeah.
It's North America, NAFTA. It's aluminum and steel. I mean, there's
Aluminium.
so many different angles out there. Aluminum.
Biggest loser of 2018, Scott's pronunciation of aluminium.
I vote for that.
Sarah, do you want me to go first?
Yes, please, so I can still think about it.
My top story of 2018 would be the downfall of Facebook. I think it encapsulates the biggest industry in our world today, or the largest growing industry, which is the tech sector. So much money flooding into the sector, so much of it is overvalued. People are calling it a bubble, and Facebook is really at the front of the pack of those tech companies. It's one of the highest valued, and I think the downfall, scandal after scandal, and the wider questions it's brought up around privacy, data protection, and how much of our information, our personal lives, we're willing to share with internet companies that monetize that data, I think has been just so much coverage of it this year, and so many discussions around the dinner table and all that kind of stuff. So to me, it has to be that. Listen,
wrap it up.
We're meant to pitch the story, right? And we're meant to give people who are listening a bit of background on why we believe in that story. So Facebook for me. Honorary mention, Canada legalizing marijuana. I think that's a huge story.
Oh, God, this is such a difficult one. I mean, my first instinct was to say Elon Musk just being incredibly entertaining on Twitter. And as a result, kind of messing up Tesla's share prices incredibly with just massive fluctuations and volatility. But I also I feel definitely the Tesla story is quite a niche, company related one. And so if I were to think macro about the biggest story of 2018, I'm inclined to go with trade wars as well. Because it's something that now increasingly more people that I'm talking to, more analysts and economists are saying we are keeping our eyes on this one for 2019. Companies from all sectors really saying, depending on how this goes, our sales could be impacted in 2019. So I'm gonna go with you, Scott, and say the U.S.-China trade war.
All right.
I think Facebook created more discussions amongst normal people. Trade war is quite not niche, but it is among the kind of business communities and so on. So
just lose with grace.
You just called a global trade war niche.
Yeah, well,
just lose with grace.
I'm not losing without grace. I'm not upset. I'm just saying I think Facebook was a bigger story.
All right. So that's it, though. We got 2-1 here.
Yes.
We have the U.S. trade war with China, the biggest story of 2018.
Yeah.
All right. One last category then.
Yeah.
2019. What will the biggest story of 2019 be?
I'm going to go with the IPO of tech companies. Again, people calling it a bubble in the tech sector. I think the IPOs of Uber and Airbnb will be referendums on that. Massive valuation. Uber's going to be the largest IPO in a long time. Airbnb, likewise, huge valuation, huge IPO. I think it's going to be a real temperature check of the tech sector and whether it's overheated and how much Uber is actually worth. It hasn't been able to make any money yet, so an IPO will be a big story. And they're both targeted around spring of next year, so I think that's going to really dominate headlines.
I think my biggest story pick for 2019 is going to be recession bells. More and more recession bells ringing, people warning about a possible recession and maybe an actual recession happening in 2019, and more signs such as more volatility in stock markets, increasing concerns about the fiscal debt, the debt of the U.S. government, and more stories about the niche and the beauty that is the yield curve.
I tend to agree with that one because it's going to continue. The markets right now we've seen the last week are not doing particularly well, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. I think it's going to get worse. But I'm actually going to pull a story from Ed from 2018. We've called it the story of 2019, and that's Facebook. Facebook's not done yet. They are still out there making massive amounts of money on advertising. They are unrepentant, and Mark Zuckerberg must fry. So I hope that Facebook having a massive meltdown and possibly even getting antitrust lawsuits against it and broken up, is the story of 2019. We'll have to wait and see. It's been a while since we've had a major, what do you call it when you break a company up? Deregulation steps in and really cracks the whip. It's been a while since we've seen that, so I'm hoping to see that in 2019 with them.
Yeah, I think the broader question about whether they're publishers or businesses, the Facebook trying to argue.
Platform versus content
creator. Yeah, I think that's a huge question and will impact Twitter, will impact, could impact all of them. So yeah, I'm surprised no one said China-US trade war continuing in 2019.
Unfortunately, I just don't know where to call that one.
Well,
I see that one going forward for a while.
With the Huawei CFO in jail, that could get seriously ugly, or it could get resolved at the sort of drop of a dime. So,
but let's diversify a bit from our 2018 pick.
Yeah.
So are we voting on this, or are we just keeping it here?
What do we think is the story? What's
or shall we just keep it here? Since they're all going to be stories anyway.
All right, let's vote. I think recession probably would be the biggest story of next year.
I vote recession too. I'm sorry I didn't vote back for you.
You know what? Actually, I'm getting
No,
because I'm getting really bad memories. Like I can imagine us sitting here in a year and like the economy's doing great and Trump's like I'm presiding over the best economy ever, and then we'll play back me going there's going to be like talk of a recession and it's just going to look.
I'm the one who said it. You're just supporting me. It's okay. Keep it. I want to
Don't
win.
worry, Ed. Yeah, well, you'll get used to it after a while.
All right, I vote.
Also, I mean, we
Sarah.
have you on tape last year saying that you expect Bitcoin to be at $50,000 this time. So,
What did you say?
I said $40,000.
Right.
but
Okay.
that's
Well.
not-
All right then. $10,000.
You said 50,000.
Yeah, okay,
so,
well,
I mean,
you
if we're
know.
going to use something against you, it's
We
that.
both look like mugs. All right. Go
And
on.
on that note, I think we're calling.
Are we not voting? What's your vote?
Well, actually, I was going to vote for what you did, but you started off with the markets more than anything else. Is that you calling that the recession vote then?
No, I'm saying recession in general.
Oh, okay, I'll go with that one. I think we have a unanimous call for 2019. We think an upcoming recession because of all the economic factors going on will be the big story of 2019. Cool. Good. Very happy, cheerful news for everyone looking forward to the new year.
Just a quick one word, biggest local story of 2019.
Wow. Okay, you go first so I can mull it over.
I haven't really thought about it because it wasn't a category. I guess maybe what happens to DFM, what happens to it in 2019, or what happens to Kareem, whether it merges with Uber or is acquired by Uber, whether it makes moves to IPO.
Are we still talking business?
Yeah, local business story. Yeah.
I wanted to say like Qatar's position in the GCC, and I guess that has some business implications.
Certainly does.
Yeah. But what does anything make you think that will shift in 2019?
Yes, the fact that it seems to be, well, I mean, I don't know. There are things that make me a bit optimistic and there are things that make me pessimistic. So what makes me optimistic, for example, are things like the joint communique that was signed between all GCC members and the fact that Qatar showed up to that summit in Saudi Arabia with
That's
the
more of a
GCC
formality,
summit.
though.
No, I know, but they could have not showed up. Which would have signaled like a pullout of the GCC. But what makes me pessimistic is the fact that they pulled out of OPEC, for example. So I'm not sure.
Locally, I don't know. I mean, just to be off in something different, I'm going to say the tech revolution here in the UAE. We've been talking about the adoption of artificial intelligence. We've been talking about the adoption of blockchain, which I still say is probably a little bit of an overblown technology, but they've been pushing very hard. So maybe we'll see a rise in consumer technology along the lines of local apps, local technology, local startups. I think that might be the best story for 2019. At least fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I mean, if I get that one wrong, I'm not going to feel bad about it.
Can I nominate something else for 2019 that I think might be the biggest story?
Sure.
Why do you say that reluctantly?
Go on.
Because it was supposed to be one suggestion per category. Now we voted, and you're still bringing up categories.
Well, this is a good one. This is one I think that you both will like and everyone will like. I think we're going to see more ease of regulations in terms of things like visas, in terms of things like ability to invest, foreign ownership, things like that in the UAE, and then the GCC in general.
Probably going to come this way. It'll be interesting to see how it develops. So I'm not sure that's story of the year yet, but we'll certainly be watching it.
I'm glad no one said oil, because that's such an obvious choice for local
I'm
story
so
of the
sick
year.
of oil.
Yeah.
I've been covering it since 2014. I know far more about oil than I ever thought I would in life. And it's going to be a story in 2019.
But isn't that
no
interesting
doubt.
as an American who has come to the UAE and, like UAE is big here and now it's turning into like a huge thing in the US as well?
Yeah, it's been very interesting to watch.
So you can go back to the US and be like, oh yeah, I was like in the heart
I've
of
tried that. Trust me, people are like, we don't want to hear about it. It's still a boring oil story.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I think that's it then. So this is our last podcast for the year. We're done. We'll be back next year.
Correct.
Hope everyone...
Can you believe we made it through a whole year?
Sure. Why not?
No, I mean,
We made it through. This is not our first year. This is our second year, so I'm not entirely surprised.
We must have done well over 1,000 podcasts by now.
What?
Two a week.
What?
No, dude.
Sorry.
We haven't even reached 200.
Have we not reached 200?
No.
We do 2 a week. We did 2 a week since April 2017. So we must be at like
Okay, there's 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that's
100 a year.
104. So we were doing 2 podcasts
I feel like this
for
is
the
the part where the
majority
music
of the year.
fades out.
So that's about 200 podcasts.
Yeah, I'm sure we must be
Two,
getting
I'm
close.
sure 200 is just like 1,000.
1,000?
Yeah, no, not 1,000. Sorry, I meant 200.
Anyway, it's been fun.
Apparently, Ed has
Yeah.
already partaken of
I've
the
already
holiday cheer.
Been already got on the old
This
mulled
was
wine.
this was my way of being like festive and being like, oh, it was nice working with you all year round.
Yes, it's been
was.
good. I appreciate it.
been
And
good.
thank you for all our listeners, everyone who is out there.
Yes.
Yep,
listening
thank you for
throughout the year
listening.
and checking back and downloading us. And thanks to Logan Fish for all his help with the podcast
Yes,
and
thank
getting
you,
us
Logan.
on video and putting up with our endless demands of where's this, where's that, and what else can we get out of you.
Thank you, Logan.
And everyone else who helped out and all the guests we had on the show over the years.
Absolutely.
Over the years.
Over the years. Both of
Over
them.
the months.
Over the months.
Over the thousands of episodes we've done. Thanks everyone.
All right, so for one final time, if you don't know where to find us already, you can always find the latest episodes of Dirhams and Dollars on iTunes. And, of course, you can also find us from now on attached to our snaps on Snapchat, where you can look us up under the business wrap.
Yeah, the podcast is not going away, by the way. Scott's words had a sort of finality to them. This is not for one last time. We're not retiring, just for a couple of weeks until the beginning of
Actually,
January.
no, Ed's
I'm out. I'm
Ed's
not coming
out
back.
to go back home, but me and Sarah will still be here, so we'll still be doing this.
You'll still be rocking and rolling.
For a while.
Yeah. All right, I'm on Twitter at Ed Clowes. Thanks again for listening. Everyone have a great Christmas.
And I'm on Twitter at the Sarah Dia. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Happy Festivus. Happy everything you celebrate. See you next year.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening.